What is up, you guys? Pharmacist Ben here, and I want to talk to you a little bit today about this book. I don't know if you can see it here. It's called The Black Butterfly, An Invitation to Radical Aliveness by Dr. Richard Moss. Richard Moss is a medical doctor, MD, turned spiritual guru. And he's got a lot of really cool books, and this is one of my favorites. The Black Butterfly, An Invitation to Radical Aliveness. So page 92, Dr. Moss says something very interesting that I think is relevant when it comes to our physiologic, our physical well-being. This is not necessarily a physical principle. This is more of an emotional or a psychological or even a spiritual principle, but it has very important physiological impact. So Dr. Moss says, quote, "Fear takes over when we are no longer absorbed in what we are doing." This is so important because so many of us go through this existential fear of life. In addition to the fact that folks have fear of public speaking, fear of death, fear of loss, fear of the New World Order, fear of crowds, fear of snakes, fear of spiders. There's zillions of different fears. So there's existential fear, the fear of being alive. There's fear that's associated with specific concerns, but they all have one thing in common. In other words, we're not really afraid of public speaking. We're not really afraid of spiders. We're not really afraid of snakes or crowds or being enclosed in places, or we're not really afraid of being alive, even though it seems like we go through our day-to-day life with this sense of existential dread. Like Thoreau said, most people live lives of quiet desperation. What we are really afraid of is the mystery, the unknown nature that's associated with that which we think we're afraid of. There's a sort of sense of unknown about life. We're not afraid of life per se, but we're afraid of what could possibly happen, of the mystery, the unknown. We're not afraid of public speaking. We're afraid of what might happen when we public speak. We're afraid maybe the crowd will reject us, maybe they'll laugh at us, maybe they'll make fun of us. Whatever particular thing that we're afraid of is really not that thing, but the mystery or the sense of unknown that's associated with that thing. The unknown results. In other words, there's a very important link between fear and the unknown. In fact, in the Bible actually refers to knowledge as a sort of absorption. It says Adam, when they talk about sexual intercourse, I'm not sure where it says this somewhere in the book of Genesis, they talk about knowing each other as a form of sexual intercourse. What does this really mean? Well, it's talking about a sense of unity being associated with knowledge. Knowledge is about unification. Unification is about absorption. When you know something, you are absorbed in it. When you know something, there's a sense of oneness with something. There's an important connection between knowledge and absorption. Work with me here, stick with me, because I'm going to link this up to what Dr. Moss says. So there's an important relationship between knowledge and absorption, knowledge and unification. That means, if you accept that while knowledge is unification, knowledge is absorption, lack of knowledge is lack of unification, separation, distance, a lack of absorption. What I'm doing here is trying to show you guys how there is a major relationship between absorption and knowing something, and fear or lack of absorption, lack of knowledge, and fear. When we go through our lives, if we are afraid of anything, the solution is to know it, to understand it, to be with whatever it is we are afraid of, to be absorbed, as Dr. Moss says, with what we're absorbed in, with what we're afraid of. Fear takes over when we are no longer absorbed in what we are doing. Fear is about separation. The opposite of fear is love, and love is about absorption. Fear, separation, love, absorption. Now, this is not just some kind of spiritual or psychological or emotional, woo-woo, feel-good concept. This has a major implication when it comes to our physiologic well-being. Behind all chronic diseases, behind all physical symptoms, with the exception of mechanical trauma, accidents, and such, I'm talking about long-term chronic physiologic issues, you will find a body that is scared. This fear is manifested by something called the sympathetic nervous system, and sympathetic symptomology is behind things like hypertension, chronic pain, fibromyalgia, hot flashes. Particularly women's menopausal symptoms are associated with this amplified or enhanced sympathetic fear response. So what is the solution? The solution is to become absorbed. The solution is to become connected to. The solution is to understand what it is that our symptomology is trying to tell us. In the case of hot flashes, the symptomology may be trying to tell us that we need to breathe more slowly. The symptomology may be telling us, the hot flash symptomology may be telling us that there's certain thoughts that we need to be changing. The symptomology of hot flashes may be telling us there's certain foods that we should be avoiding eating, or there's certain digestive strategies that we should be avoiding. What I'm trying to say here is that physiologic symptoms of distress, the things that we hate about being alive, really, the things that we hate about our physiology are all the signs of fear, bodily physiologic fear. Even if it's not consciously, even if we're not consciously aware of that fear, there is some underlying fear, there's some underlying protection that's going on. There's an activation of the body's protective systems, and we perceive that as the hot flashes or the oily skin or the poor bone repair or the depressed immune system, whatever it is. There's many ways that this can show up physiologically. We perceive it at the symptomatic physiologic level, but somewhere underneath, you're dealing with an enhanced sympathetic fear response. Understand the symptomology, understand what the symptomology is trying to tell us, and you will solve the physiologic response. As Dr. Moss says, fear takes over when we are no longer absorbed in what we're doing, when we are separated from what is showing up in our lives, whether it's a physiologic issue or whether it's a psychological issue or emotional issue or anything else. So if you're afraid of anything, or if your body is manifesting the signs that it is afraid or that you are afraid of anything in terms of physiology, learn about it, understand it, integrate it somehow into your consciousness and your awareness in all of its details. In fact, even feeling it can be part of being absorbed in your symptomology. Even diving into your symptomology rather than creating the sense of separation where you're afraid of your symptomology, or you're over here and your symptoms are somehow happening to you, as if your heart is attacking you, like you're having a heart attack or a gallbladder attack. The sense of separation that we have from our bodies needs to be addressed via reintegration, feeling, learning about, really participating in the life of your gallbladder or your spleen or your liver or your lung or your heart or anything else. Thanks for listening, friends. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We'll talk to you all later. Bye for now.